What's up, Internet? This is Jimmy here at Big Number 1 Motorsports. Just wanted to take a moment today to show you guys this Can-Am Outlander 570 behind me. It's getting ready for hunt season, so wanted to go over some of the features about this machine and tell you mostly how it is comfortable, performance-oriented, and full of technology. So let's start with performance, because that's what most everybody wants to hear. How fast is this thing? How much can it pull? What is it capable of? Well, to put it very simply, it's capable of a lot. And for most hunters, it's capable of much more than you need. This 570 behind me with a V-twin engine and 8 valves puts out 48 horsepower, which is enough to do really anything. Whether you're hunting Alabama deer down here at, a couple 100 pounds a piece, or hunting up in Canada, this thing will still get your haul out of the woods, no question. So with 48 horsepower, you've got a top speed that's plenty, as it's running through a Can-Am CVT drive that gives you high and low range and plenty of performance. And it also is going to be able to tow another 1,300 pounds, so if it won't fit on the rack, front or rear, you're going to be able to pull it out of the woods if you need to as well. Now, performance is pretty simple. That's something that you guys can see on the internet. You can read all the specs. I'm here to tell you a little bit more about how Can-Am is full of technology and how it's more comfortable. All right, so let's talk technology. Can-Am is giving you a good bit of real-world tech that helps you out in a lot of situations. One of my favorites is what they call Tri-Mode DPS. That stands for Dynamic Power Steering. The reason it has 3 modes is pretty simple. Sometimes you need a lot of power steering assistance, like when you're pulling a trailer around your yard. Sometimes you need very little, like when you're doing some trail riding and you're really getting in some mud and you want more feedback and more feel like what the front end is doing. So they give you the ability to customize the ride for what kind of riding you're doing. And then when they refer to dynamic power steering, what they're talking about is a simple tapering of the power steering assistance. So the faster you go, the less assistance the front end is going to give you. So the more in control of the vehicle you are, whether it's at 5 miles an hour or 20 miles an hour. We also have a Visco lock front end. A lot of people on the internet say that Can-Am is terrible because you never get all 4 wheels turning. Well, this sales guy would tell you that most of the time you don't need 4 wheels turning. 4 wheels locked out means that you have a really tough time steering the machine, and well, Can-Am wants you to be in control of the machine at all times. So the Visco lock is designed to give you a progressively locking front end. The other thing that's going to do for you is really protect your pocketbook. When things engage and disengage very quickly, like front differentials, we have lots of torque put on things that aren't necessarily meant to have so much torque put on them, like axles. You have issues where they will pop a CV and then you're stuck on the side of the road or the trail for the next 20 minutes while you replace your axle, or call your buddy to come tow you out. Nobody wants to be in those situations. So you might get stuck for a couple of seconds as that front end starts to lock itself out. But I promise you, if you stay on it and keep the wheels straight, it's going to get you out of whatever crap you're in. And if it doesn't, hey, that's what we got insurance winches for, right? We also talk about technology in other ways, and not necessarily electronics, but Can-Am gives a lot of technology in their suspension and their ride of this machine, which is going to lead us to the comfort. Alright, so moving from technology into comfort. Can-Am spends a ton of money R&Ding their performance of their suspension and their frame to give us really, really awesome rides. So the biggest thing is the way they actually mount the frame to the rest of this machine and to the engine itself. They have what's called a SST G2 frame. Pretty simple. It stands for Surrounding Spar Technology. It means that they've got a frame that actually wraps itself all the way around the engine. That makes it really solid and gives you good structural integrity. With that frame, they're able to achieve what they call geometric contact control. So what that does for us is pretty simple. Usually you only get one thing or the other. You get a Cadillac smooth ride that just floats over all the bumps, or you get Ferrari sport tune performance that makes you feel it when you roll over a penny. This is going to give you really good traction and a really good ride at the same time. They've done a really good job developing it. So what they use with that SST G2 is a double A-arm suspension up front. A double A-arm in an entry-level vehicle like this is really state-of-the-art, simply because most of the companies are using a simple McPherson strut. Up here, we've got a little bit more suspension travel, right about 9 inches, that's going to give you enough movement to be able to conquer anything that you need to, especially when you're riding in rough terrain, when you shoot a deer and it's out in the middle of the woods. But they offset that A-arm just a little bit to give us dive control geometry. What that's essentially going to do for you is when you're going down a hill, you're able to turn and not have the body roll, pitch, and dive toward the outside edge. So you're in control no matter what the terrain, and that means you're a little bit safer as well. Back here in the back, and this is one of my favorite features on the Can-Am, is what we call a TTI rear suspension. That stands for Torsional Trailing Independent Rear Suspension. So if we look back here in the back, instead of seeing double A-arms with a bunch of different moving parts, you have 2 pivot points. It's really simple. There's one piece there at the frame, there's another pivot point back here at the wheel. One, that makes it a lot less things for you to grease, a lot less things to have wear out, no bushings, no issues. It's a really simple design. But as the suspension compresses, I didn't do a very good job of that, it's going to compress vertically. So there's no camber change on that wheel. And you'll notice the tires around it. So if your suspension is to camber and butterfly that tire, then it's going to pull or push the vehicle one way or the other. And if you've got one tire pushing to the left, one tire pushing the opposite direction, it's always unstable and always out of control. So what you're going to get when the wheels are moving vertically is pretty simply the back end going where you point it, instead of it fighting itself all the time, giving you undue wear, giving you bouncing. And what that leads to is comfort. Whether you're riding 2 miles out to your blind, or you're riding for 4 hours as you're out, conquering Windrock up in Tennessee, or one of the other awesome riding parks that we've got around us. So a lot of R&D, and when we talk about Can-Am's technology, we don't just mean electronics. It's not just things that are going to break. These are things that are real world benefits that are simple design that work great. Guys, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to watch this video. My goal here was to try to make sure that you get an idea of what these machines are actually capable of and not just reading the specs online. As you know, specs don't really tell the full picture. So if you'd like to come in, ask for me. I'll be happy to go through some of this more in depth with you. And hell, if you haven't had a chance to ride one, we'll put you on one and let you ride it so you can feel and experience these things for yourself. That really is what sold me on the Can-Am being one of the best ATVs, especially in this price range. It really does a lot. And if you're going to be riding something all day long, you want something that's got plenty of performance, you want something that's full of tech, and you want something that is comfortable. And this machine is definitely all of those. So thank you so much. Make sure that when you get a chance, you click down below, subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on social media, Facebook and Instagram. And if you have any questions for me, always call or send an email and ask. It'll be below. Thank you again.